All right, let's roll. I'll get Ingram in here first. Ingram, you come hang out today if you want to. If you're busy or working or whatever, you don't have to, but feel free to tap in. Obviously, anybody that wants to hang out, wants to ask a question, feel free to shoot that my way. I really wanted to hear from you guys. I have enough that I can kind of get through and talk, but I really wanted to get some of you guys' like bold predictions. I want to talk about the schedule. I want to talk about anything you've gotten from fall camp, anything you've seen there. Of course, we'll give some love to Gramco and Garnet and Gold and some different things. What you're thinking, what you're worried about, what you're not worried about. Let's get after it. Yeah, so I'm all about it today. We actually have another one of these tomorrow with a special guest. So hopefully some of you guys will like. If you don't, then you can go listen to a K in Space for 17 hours while you're let's keep while we've got that going. Hit the share button. If there's anybody you want to be in here, if there's anybody you want to speak, tag them in. People are hating on Sonone today. I feel like we need to give Sonone a chance. I feel like the problem is people hate on Sonone from behind like burner accounts, right? Like I saw Aaron tweeting about this. People hate on everybody from behind burner accounts. Like nobody just puts their name on anything anymore. Shout out to people that still put their name on things. We haven't done shout outs in a long time, but yeah, shout out to people that put their name on things. Like if you're going to hate on Sonone, then just hate on him in real life. Like don't do it behind a 16 follower Derwin James Abbey account. Ingram had a good point today that anybody, if you're hating on somebody that much, it means you're like reading and listening to all their content. So shout out to those that support. All right, let's get after it. I'll shout out quickly Gramco. Go to thegramco.com. You can use code TJ25. I was chatting with them last night. The gummies are still killing it. Hey, we are going to have a competition. I see Larry on in here. I'm a little worried about putting this competition out there because he's been killing it on 26 degrees. Shout out the network. But we're going to have a competition a little bit later this year. We may have some team branded gummies. Like it won't say like FSU got, like you can't do that. Like we're not going to do it that far, but they'll be kind of like team branded. Maybe they'll be themed after the podcasts. And I'm counting on FSU Twitter to win the little contest against UF in Miami. Little sneak peek at what's coming. I only said that because Gramco's not in here yet, and so they won't yell at me for on the replay. They're going to be pissed, but they won't yell at me for just yet. So got some exciting stuff coming for them. But if you haven't tried them, I would say go to thegramco.com. It's Delta 8 THC. We can legally say that now. Some things are changing. Some different things are happening. Delta 8 THC. If you haven't tried it, they've got sample packs of gummies and hard candies. Go get them. If you hate them, or if they don't work, you don't like them, let me know. I'll get you. I'll Venmo you like $5 back, right? Like it's not that much. You can go try stuff. I know Richie's a believer. Like I said, Larion's in here. He's a believer. Aaron's had him. Ingram's had him. Seymour's had him. Like, I'm just going down the list of the folks in here. Joshua's had him. John's had him. Like, all these people that you guys follow and hang out with, go to thegramco.com. TJ25 will save you 25% on your order. Should be fun. Somebody just tagged in. I'm not sure who Cameron Rolston is, but he is more than happy to come on as well. I just got tagged into him. So anybody that wants to come on and speak, feel free to hit the request. I've got a Gator recruiting page that's requested to speak. So I'm wondering how much of a troll this will end up being, or if Dan just clicked in from his burner, or what ended up happening. But let's start with the Nole. If any Noles want to come in here and chat first, and then we'll get the Gator recruiting page on. I see, man. You don't have to raise your hand. I see it all. We'll get you in. So if you want to get a troll off or whatever you got going on, shout out my guy Donald Heaven, national champion. I love the new Avi. So good stuff there, my man. We're making edits for the legends now, because I know that edit wasn't made when in the late 90s. So shout out to my guy Donald. All right, got some questions in the DMs. Let's get after it. Oh no, these aren't questions. These are just people like crapping on Sonone on the show, joking around. So TJ said, If you hate snow, put your name on it. Request to speak in the space with your reasoning. Very good, Aaron. Thank you. All right, let's get after it. Todd, you can go first. You got a great name. I got to let a Seminole go first. Gator recruiting page, and then we'll get you on to talk. But Todd, what's going on?
Hey, Todd, from one Todd to another.
Yeah, my man.
Just the whole quarterback thing. I think a lot of folks have blown it out of proportion. When you think about if Jordan leaves after this year, which we're all thinking he's doing, well, it sets us up where we've seen a lot of other teams in the portal do very, very well, because you'll have a guy in the portal who didn't want to come here this year because they knew there was no competition. Well, next year, because they knew there wasn't going to be a competition for them, they couldn't get the QB1, where looking at next season, you've got the offensive line, you've got hopefully the wide receivers are so much better. The running backs room is good. Well, it's a great spot for a really good quarterback to come into.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that selling it to I think it's hard to sell, hey, come here and be the backup to transfers, because even if they know they're going to be the backup, like, kids are just competitive, right? Like, they're playing at a Division I level. And so even if you are the third, not to call a kid out completely, but here I guess I'm going to do it. I mean, Chuba, like, he left as a third stringer here. Now he's a third stringer in Nebraska. Like, is that really is that an upgrade? So kids are competitive. They think they can go somewhere and win a job. And then once you're in it, you're not going to, deadlines hit and you can't transfer again without, well, they're going to remove that rule. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it'll be a much easier to sell to say, yes, it's an open competition. You can come in here and you can compete for it. Does AJ have a leg up on people? Probably, after being in the system for a year, but who knows, right? Like, who knows who that quarterback is going to be or where he's coming from in the transfer portal, So, I completely agree. I think it'll be a much easier sell. I think that the plan this class was to take 2 quarterbacks, and once Parson kind of threw up the deuces and you missed on Glenn, who knows, if they end up offering one of those kids that was at the camp this weekend. But once Parson threw up the deuces, I think it became pretty clear that they would try to take one at the high school level and take a transfer. So, no, I think you're spot on. I don't see any reason why Florida State struggles to take a transfer quarterback this upcoming cycle or this year.
But Parson and look at Croman Hawk, those guys are so many years down the road. It doesn't matter for this year at all. Hey, I didn't make it, but I was close, or I can go somewhere and start, or I love the system that they're in.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'd love to find that Joe Burrow you're talking about, but I'm not setting my sights that high, but I'd love to if we did. But yeah, I think you're right, man. I think the transfer portal will be good.
But I'm saying that's a realistic situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's much easier this year than it has been, or than it was. Like, it's much easier this year coming up
now rather than 3 years from now. Yeah, and I get that. We all want to get to where we are growing through the high school ranks and not rely on the portal. But I think I think some of that's changed because we're back to the trenches being through high school, when they can show the product on the field from an offensive standpoint. The skill position comes behind that. But until that's, again, it's about wins, not worried about who's going to be quarterbacking in 2026.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think you're wrong there at all. So, good stuff. I appreciate it, Todd.
Thank you.
Let me see here. Let me get a couple tweets up in the top of the space real quick from Garnet and Gold. They've got some cool stuff going on. I don't know if you guys saw this Nike Vault polo that was released yesterday, but oh my goodness. Like, I'm putting in an order in the next week or so that it'll be ready by the time that I get up to the Duquesne game in a few weeks. They've also got, this one's really, really cool. So I just put 2 tweets up in the top of the space. This FSU LSU shirt, this like kind of co-branded shirt for New Orleans, is fantastic. I like the Garnet one. Let the good times roll. Really, really good stuff. Garnetandgold.com. They are FSU family owned. They've supported FSU for decades. They've hired thousands of FSU students. They give back to our boosters and our FSU NIL efforts. Don't support Fanatics. Don't support Alumni Hall. Those are Gator owned, Texas owned. You're giving back to the wrong people. Give back to the people that support FSU. 15% off if you use code SPACES15. It's also tax-free week. You can literally go get stuff for like 22% off if you think about it like that, because you're saving 7% on tax, 15% from our code. If you order $75 or more, it's free shipping as well. So that saves you another $5-6. And the shipping is always quick. Anytime I've ordered in Florida, it's been to my door within 2 to 3 days. That, I'm getting a text from Trey right now. That polo is so clean. That vault polo, it's up in the top of the space. I think I did the math on it last night. Like, I think you get that out the door for under $50 because of the tax-free weekend. So, yeah, would encourage you to go check that out. Garnetandgold.com. Again, FSU owned. You're supporting Noles when you shop there, just like you're supporting Noles when you shop at Gramco. But that polo is so clean. I'm just not even kidding. Yo, relax. Aaron says all the old folks are eating the polo up. You're probably right, but I'm old at this point. Garnetandgold.com. Go check them out. Spaces 15. All right. Listen, we don't do the troll game real hard on these spaces, but I'm always down to chat with other people and see if they've got an interesting perspective. So I'm adding in this Florida Gator recruiting page. If you've got a respectful question, we'll let you on. We'll let you talk. But if not, I still hold the mic. So what's going on, my man?
Hey, bro, I'm not here to troll or anything. I'm just honestly trying to find a temperature of the FSU fan base and see how you guys are feeling about this year. Man, your recruiting class. I'm not trying to troll or anything, for real.
So I'll give you my take, and I'm probably somewhere in the middle, maybe lean a little bit farther towards optimistic than some people. I think I'll start with recruiting. I think that people understand that recruiting is not great right now because the product hasn't been great, right? Like you need to win more games to recruit better. I don't think anybody, if Florida State had made a bowl the last 4 years as opposed to missing a bowl the last 4 years, they would be recruiting better. Like, that's just a simple fact. Now, would they be recruiting at a top 5 level, an absolutely elite level? I'm not predicting that, but I do think that, the recruiting failures or the recruiting struggles are a product of what the program has been for the last really 5 years, right? Like, even that last year of Jimbo checking out wasn't very good. And so I think that you've seen things go downhill. I think you've seen things start to, all pun intended, climb out of that and start to do better and start to rebound. But is it happening quickly enough, right? We've seen incremental progress. I think, we went from 3 wins to 5 wins. Most of the fan base expects 6 to 8 wins this year. And so there will be more progress made. But is that happening fast enough for FSU to kind of climb out of this thing? Again, being a little bit punny there. So I don't know. I think fans are optimistic about this season. I think that when you look at the schedule, Florida State fought and was in every single game last year except for the Wake Forest game. I think Florida State fans are optimistic about the schedule. I think that they are I think that they should be in about every game. Clemson and NC State will be pretty tough, but I think they think they'll be in the Florida game, the LSU game, the Miami game, and see how the fourth quarters go there. Because they were in all those games last year, save LSU, which they didn't play, but they were in the Notre Dame game. So you can kind of like swap those two out, and then we'll see kind of what that ends up looking like. I think it's cautiously optimistic about the year. And then if you're just asking about the program in general, the takes vary from all the way from, the most positive people that think we, are in perfectly great shape and there are no issues at all the way down to, we should make we should fire a coach in August. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that, overall program, it's harder to answer because that's where people's opinions vary so much. As far as this season, I don't know. I think most people think anywhere from 6 to 7 to 8 wins is probably realistically what's going to happen. Did I sum that up good, FSU fans? Maybe not. Maybe everybody thinks I'm an idiot for that take. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I don't think you're an idiot. I just see the fan base is so spread out, like you said. Like I see some fans, even in I put that post in a Jumbotron, some fans are saying 4-8, some are saying 10-2. So it's very spread out. if y'all fail to make a bowl game again, which again I'm not trolling, I'm being serious. If y'all fail to make a bowl game again, is it fire Norvell or is it wait another year? In your opinion?
Yeah, I think you've got to pretty seriously look at, moving on. I'm not Michael Alford, but I don't understand kind of a way that you leave. I mean, you just can't do it 3 years in a row, right? Like, especially so the expectation this year has to be to go above 6 wins, right? You just cannot continue to, you get year one, right? Like you get the COVID excuse and then, all right, well then you had a bad year last year and you just can't keep doing it. It's got to get better. It's got to improve. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but yeah, that I would, if I was the AD and you miss a bowl again, especially with the schedule that they have, right? I think the schedule sets up nicely. I think that, to make a bowl this year, you can't lose any one of these 5 games, right? So you've got Duquesne, Louisiana, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and Boston College. Like those are 5 games that are must wins. You cannot lose any more of those. And so essentially to make a bowl, you just need to go 1-6 over the rest of the season. And so if you can't go 1-6 against the rest of the schedule, I think that's a problem. Now, Jordan Travis goes down. You have 4 injuries on the offensive line. Freak things happen. I don't know. I still think the heat's going to be too hot and they'll have to move on. But if you can't go 1-6 outside of the rest of that schedule, or if you lose to any of those teams, we've got a pretty serious problem. Florida State brings back, I believe, the 11th. They're number 11 in the country on returning production this year, right? And so if you bring back like 90% of your production from the year before, the only real big loss I think you're going to notice is Jermaine Johnson and maybe Kier, but I think you've restocked the running back room. If you lose more games, if you lose the same amount of games last year that you did this year, I think that's bad. So yeah, I'd agree. If you don't make a bowl, that's trouble time for sure.
Yes, sir. And another question real quick. I honestly feel like your schedule's a little harder than it was last year. Miami, I feel like they're going to be better, even though I hate Miami. Syracuse, they have a really good running back. I mean, you can't sleep on him. Louisville, they're looking on the come up. Wake Forest just made the ACC championship game. I hope y'all beat LSU because I hate LSU. But, Brian Kelly's a good coach. They have a loaded roster, Clemson and NC State. Florida, nobody really knows what Florida's going to be. I think they're going to be a little bit better this year, but FSU should be a little better this year too. So Georgia Tech, I feel like y'all will beat them. Duquesne, better beat them. Boston College, another sleeper team, they played y'all tough last year, didn't they?
They did, yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like, so it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like you guys' schedule, right? Like South Carolina played you guys tough last year. I know people say like Florida quit and stuff, but you guys shouldn't have lost to South Carolina. You shouldn't have lost to Missouri. You should never really lose to Kentucky. But that's where like Florida, like nobody's asking Florida to beat Georgia this year, right? But Florida can't go out and lose to South Carolina and can't go out and lose. It can't go out and lose to Missouri again and really shouldn't lose to Kentucky. Tennessee, I think, is on kind of the upswing. So I actually like Tennessee in that game. But yeah, like nobody's asking Florida to go into Kyle Field and beat A&M or beat UGA. But like you just got to beat those teams you're supposed to beat. And so like Boston College played us tough. I get it. Wake Forest, made the ACC championship last year. I get it. But like those are teams that Florida State just has to beat. Like it doesn't matter. We've out recruited, even with all the bad years, like we've out recruited all those teams every single year. There's more, if you look at the 247 composites or whatever recruiting site you're looking at, like Florida State's more talented than all those teams. So I get it. Those teams, Syracuse, like got a good running back. Florida State loses to NC State or LSU or Miami on the road or Clemson or even Florida. I think those are acceptable. The rest of the schedule, I just think Florida State really can't be losing to teams like that anymore. Like that's the difference in getting the program to where it's at least respectable, right? Like you lose a big game to LSU or you lose to one of your rivals, it's a huge deal, right? Like we want to beat everybody, but not a huge deal, right? Losing to Wake and Louisville and Boston College, like that's going to be, can Mike Norvell make it or not?
And I think if they fire like Norvell, they'll probably bring in Dion. Which if they bring in Dion, man.
Oh, you tricked me. This is Seymour. This is Seymour.
No.
This is
I'm being
Seymour.
real. I think if they bring in Dion, it's gonna be a nightmare for us Florida fans. Real talk. He can recruit how he recruits at Jackson State. And if he goes to FSU, which I don't know if he would or not, I think that would be just as similar as Mario going back to Miami. And I'm being real with that.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, you're not wrong about that. If Dion was here, the way that he's recruiting now, it would just be absolutely ridiculous. I have no idea what the staff would look like. I have no idea what the on-field would look like. But at the end of the day, it's about players. And so you're right. It will upset my boy Aaron though, who's angling for Stoops. But Dion recruiting with Chief Osceola on his lapel would be pretty ridiculous. So I don't disagree there.
From Mark Stoops, he wants Mark Stoops.
Yeah, he's a big Mark Stoops guy. I heard he likes cat. I heard he's like a big cat fan.
Mark Stoops is not going anywhere. And I'll tell you why. Mark Stoops has the best contract of any job in America. He can win 6 games every year and keep his job because the expectation is so low. Every time that he goes and wins 7 games, he gets an extension. Every time he wins 10 games, he gets like $1 million bonus or something.
I don't know, man. He might want to come home. We'll see, though. I don't disagree. Hey, man, I appreciate your call, bro. This is a good call. Good questions.
Absolutely, bro. I always try to, keep it real, like keep the bias out of it. Just talk ball.
I like it. Well, thanks for hanging out, my man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All right. Take care, my man. Look at that. UF fans coming in here and being super respectful, asking good questions, good interaction. I like it. Joshua. I think Joshua missed the last space last time. I don't know where Joshua was.
I'm here, my man.
What is going on? How's it going?
It's going good. It was a pretty good call from a Florida fan. I kind of took me off guard a little bit. He was, pretty unbiased with all that. I was waiting for him, like you said, to troll, and I kept waiting and waiting. It never happened. So I'm kind of surprised. So him on that one.
Sometimes I go in other spaces and I'll ask like 4 serious questions in a row like that, and then I'll hit them with a troll at the end. Like I'll set them up. I was kind of waiting on it. Like I did that after we beat Miami in baseball. They were holding a baseball space, and I was kind of like bored, and like my kids were gone, and I was like, let me just. So I hit him like with like 4 real questions, and then I asked something like, "Are you kind of surprised Miami didn't cheat and like steal signs and stuff like they normally do on the baseball field?" And like, oh man, it went over really well. So shout out to
I know you mentioned
beating the Canes and everything.
Yeah, I know you mentioned Seymour in there. I was going to say if that was Seymour, then he should quit whatever he's doing and be a voice actor.
No, I knew it wasn't Seymour.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't Seymour.
No, he's on here, but he could also have a bird. But yeah, no, I was going to say if that was him, that was a great job. But I wish we kind of asked him back what their expectations were a little more on Florida as a fan as well.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, just to kind of like figure out, like it's great that he was asking about us. I was kind of curious what they're thinking right now because we obviously hear a lot about their recruiting, their coach, all those different aspects. So I wanted to kind of hear what he had to say. But
jump back in at some point later in the show, Florida Gator recruiting guy. I wish I knew your real name, bro. Like, I'm just having to call you Florida Gator recruiting. Hit me back, and I'll add you in a little bit. So, what you got going today, Josh?
Was definitely rhetorical about Chuba because did it work out for him? Absolutely not. For 2 reasons: 1, he's 3rd string, and number 2, he has to live in Nebraska and be 3rd string.
Yeah, so that's pretty brutal.
So there's that. My question was, I'm really curious. I actually listened to the thing on 24/7. They had, I think his last name is the GM, or Ray, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of pretty insightful what he was talking about there about like all the data collection, what they're really doing to make everything personal, and how they're kind of just keeping loads of data. But one thing that kind of made me think about a little bit, they're planning for guys they didn't land that are going to go back in the portal and that contact to do that. I understand the thought process of that, but it's like if a girl rejected you, do you just want to keep in contact with her, and after she goes in a relationship and just kind of be there later? And don't get me wrong, I understand for 5-star guys or other guys, but like I don't know, I just kind of wanted to get your insight on that, or what your thought process on that.
Well, I mean, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little bit different than dating like one for one, mostly because never mind. I almost made a really good joke. Check the Patreon for a really good joke that I was gonna make right there. Whew, I'm actually glad I didn't say that because it's recorded like 5 different places now. But yeah, it's a little different than dating. One for one. I mean, essentially every kid that didn't sign with you turned you down, right? Like all of these kids have offers from every school, and you continue to pursue the kids that have interest in you, right? And so anyone you're taking in the transfer portal to some degree turned you down, right? Like maybe not maybe not at the 11th hour, but yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it's not. Most of these kids are not fans like we are, right? And so when a kid picks another school, it's not because he's trying to troll us or trying to like troll a rival or trying to. He either truly believes that's the best way that he's going to be developed and the best place. Hey, and Trey, somebody just asked about this. Would be a good one for Trey to jump in on if you're free for half a second. Trey, they're asking about your interview that came out today on the bench, but they're not trying to troll. They're not doing it because they hate Florida or hate UF or Florida State or Miami or whatever. They're going where they think is absolutely best for them, or they like the location, it's close to home, or it's NIL induced or whatever, right? Like they're making the decision that they think is best for them at that point, whatever the reasoning is behind it. And so I don't think that they're necessarily turning Florida State down. They're more so just going where they think is best, right? And so it's a little different to me than dating. But I see kind of what you're saying. But maybe they get to that school and they got sold a bunch of BS, or they got sold a bunch of lies, and they realize, look, maybe I should have gone to Florida State, or maybe they get here for a year and realize it doesn't, it's not, Florida State's not the only one that is, doing things the right way or whatever. So I don't know. I think it's a little different than just dating, but I do see what you're saying. I also, yeah, I think you do want to keep in contact because with the transfer portal, you can really have a good shot at those things. I think a really, really good example of that, and we'll kind of see if there's anything to this. I could very much foresee a situation where somebody like Brock Glenn ends up at Ohio State, doesn't ever see the field, doesn't ever make it up to even 2 on the depth chart, and then transfers out. I don't know what Florida State's QB situation is going to be when that happens. I don't know what their coaching situation is going to be when that ends up happening. But if Mike Norvell's still here and if Tony Chilcars is still here and they have that relationship and we have the need at that position, they're going to reach back out, minus like a catastrophe happening. It was going to happen with Mims. And so, yeah, I don't know. I see what you're saying, but yeah, I don't think it's a perfect 1-for-1 comparison. And I do think, yeah, you have to kind of stay in contact because you are constantly recruiting now, right? And you're constantly in the portal. And if, essentially the transfer portal is everyone's leftovers, right? Like, so it doesn't matter if you were interested in them before. If anything, you know more about them because you were interested in them before, as opposed to somebody that you had never recruited before or never knew anything about. And you're just having to like kind of start from scratch, right? I don't know that Florida State ever recruited Winston Wright Jr. Before they did this offseason. But if they had before, that just kind of makes that relationship a little bit stronger. So yeah, I don't know. That's a long-winded answer to say. I see what you're saying, but I don't think it's a perfect comparison.
Yeah, I also think it made me think of another point, and I think I have this correctly. There was an offensive lineman that went to Florida. He was a high recruit. I think he was on campus a week, and he transferred to Miami, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you're talking about maybe being sold a bill of goods and just kind of got there and just saw something, and he's like, wait a second, this is not for me, and be able to get out. So I do think there's something viable, and I do want to say he did mention like the amount of resources put behind it is good, but obviously not as much as like active recruits. And then obviously, the things they're doing, the personalization is really interesting where, when they're calling, they're asking you, hey, how did your history test go? Or, how's your girlfriend's, car doing or things like that he was mentioning, because just going into that detail instead of those everyday recruiting, hey, how are you? How was your game? So that personal touch, could go a long way. I do think though, at the end of the day, with a lot of these kids, no matter how much they don't say it, they can love you. They can want to be a part of everything. And then they get a check from someone else. And it's like, hey, I got a family, so I don't know. It kind of goes both ways. One last thing. I love what I'm seeing with Julian Armella. Just the fight in this kid. I heard about, like, they were talking about it. I think actually Trey was even talking about it, where he got put on his back in practice and then got right up, started chirping. The next day went and put Jared Verse on his back. You know, having guys like that back in the line, and I know he's not this year, but just having that kind of attitude back is something that, you know, gives that vibes from, you know, early 2010 and on.
Yeah, Todd mentioned that when he was on first. Just the fact that we are absolutely, it seems, building from the high school rankings when it comes to I got to block Ingram. We are absolutely building from the high school rankings again when it comes to the trenches. And that's something that maybe defensive line had never really stopped. But, you know, though we did get a couple of transfers in, obviously, last year that helped a lot. But, yeah, it is certainly encouraging to see what they've been doing on the offensive line. And Armella, like you said, Carter talked about this a little bit the other day. And, you know, he's got bad plays too because he's a true freshman. But, yeah, just some of the natural ability and talent that he displays is kind of refreshing to see because we've not seen it out of the high school level for quite some time.
Yeah, and the recruits are seeing it too. I mean, that Hakeem Williams interview, one of the first things he's mentioned is watching the young offensive linemen and how many of them are freshmen and how that's going to be longevity for the program and build. I mean, he kind of pointed that out when he was even asked about that as well. So, you know, these guys know that they need a quarterback on their feet to get the ball thrown to them. So I think that's a lot of different things to notice, man. But yeah. Well, appreciate you very much, man. I always want to give everybody else time, but thanks again for making my Thursday so far so I can get back to work and, you know, try to stay motivated. And, but yeah, appreciate you guys as always. And, you know, one last thing, TJ, I will be making my purchase this weekend on Garner and Gold. As you know, with little kids, they grow out of shit so fast. So I'm going to be planning for like 3 teams so we can wear things all through the season.
You are not kidding, man. Like I bought my new, fortunately, when they get a little bit older, right? When they're like 2 and 3 and 4, at least it happened with my daughter, like stuff would last for a year. So that was nice, right? Like she was in 2T for a year. She was in 3T for a year. Now she's moving into 4T. My son, like the newborn Lincoln is like, I bought him like a really, really nice, I don't know, Garnet Gold just is going to get more money, but yeah, I bought him a really, really nice, like collared kind of newborn outfit. And of course that doesn't fit anymore. So it's like, I got to get him a new one for the season now. And as soon as the season's over, I got to buy a new one of that. So it's just, you know, shout out to having to buy kids clothes.
My buddy sent my kid some custom Jordans. He wore them one time.
Oh my goodness. Well,
you know, and he's a year old and he got them for like a year and a bit. My kid's tall. Actually maybe a little too tall. I might request a DNA test soon. He's a damn tall ass kid already, a 1-year-old. So, but yeah, I'll be making my purchases and appreciate the discount on that. And I'll love tax free as well. So I'm gonna take advantage of that. But have a good rest of your day, guys, and go Noles as always.
Thanks, bro. Hey, Trey's on here if you want to stick on. Trey, he was asking a little bit about your one-on-one interview with Derrick that came out today.
All right, cool.
Tell the people about the interview, man. Tell them why they should go listen, other than the fact that they want to hear your voice.
Well, that's the biggest negative fucking factor probably of all of it that I'm tied to it. However, in spite of that, it was good, man. Derrick, he was largely kind of like an unknown when he got hired. You know, a guy from Oregon State. It's not like there's a lot of tape on the guy. So I really didn't know what to expect. But the way that he communicates, it's very – I can't believe that him and Norvell haven't been on the same, like, staff before. Very, like, insightful but, like, polished to where, you know, I always try to – I don't want to get anybody screwed over in interviews, but I also want to get like I don't ask boring questions. I want like informative answers. I don't want people to say something they don't want to say like after the fact they regret it. But he was very polished while still giving some insightful stuff. I think the thing that was really enlightening to me, and I don't know if you were touching on it, Josh, was just how deliberate the communication is. There is a strategy behind how they're doing everything. It's not just like, hey, today's like Graphic Tuesday, send out the graphics to the kids. It really does seem to be like strategic as far as this is building on that. When you're communicating with them, it's personalized, but it's not just personalized like photoshopping their name and spelling it wrong or some shit like how we used to do back in the day. It's like, hey, like, oh, you had your AP history test. That was great. War of 1812. LOL. Like whatever. It's still 40-year-old dudes trying to communicate with 17-year-olds and trying to be funny. But at least it shows like a personal touch. So there's a lot of thought that goes behind that. He's a very thoughtful guy, very organized. I was encouraged by the amount of work that they do with the evaluations. And even on guys when I know that it's frustrating, and I know it is for me as a fan too, to see that they're reaching out to literally everybody on the transfer portal. And it become a joke with Josh back in the day, like FSU will not pursue. But they are casting a wide net, and it's on high school or transfer guys, JUCO, so that when the decision is made to pull the trigger, all the pre-work is done. He's a very well put together guy. Like it was a very informative interview. And then it'll actually shed a light on an area that's very important. The program, the recruiting back office, that doesn't get talked about a lot from like an operational standpoint. We know they're doing shit, but it's like, what exactly are they doing? And he shed a lot of good information on that. So Josh, what specifically were you talking about? Number one, thank you for listening. That's 30 minutes of just my voice on an audio feed. That's a tough ask for anybody. So thanks, bud.
Hey, I take my coonhound for a 30-minute walk in the morning, so it was perfect timing for me. Good little walking the dog interview. I pointed it out, like they mentioned, like the history test aspect. They asked about like their significant others, their family, very very specific things, and even on the design with the graphics about how I know we've been a joke about it. Like say you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, you're like, oh god, no, for the people that are. But how they'll kind of bring it up in the design. They'll talk about their other teams they like and kind of personalize everything and kind of go into that much detail. But yeah, the only thing I wish you'd ask them is that maybe because I just think he took where we were as far as our graphics a few years ago, which were god awful, to a new level, was that bring back K-Camp, get some more budget to bring back some of the design guys that moved on because we had limited budget, because they really basically took us a huge step up when it came to our graphics and just our social in general.
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's a good point. There's only so much with 30 minutes. Like maybe that's something I think that hopefully I can follow up with him later. I think he started to kind of get a little bit more comfortable near the end as far as like shooting the shit on the fact that there was a recruiting event Super Mario Kart that was possibly on the table. That was the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. And I don't know because I never listened back. Like I never want to listen to my own voice on those things. I don't know if it was on air or off. But we were talking about like who the different characters would be. Yeah. And it was just like Odell Hagen's 100% Bowser, like perfect Bowser, solid center of gravity. No matter how many turtle shells you're throwing at him, the guy is immovable. So I don't know if that made it onto the podcast or if that was just off air.
No, it did. You just called him. You said it'd be Super Mario for sure. And then he said it was a compliance issue why they couldn't do that, I believe.
Yeah, we started like wish casting like coaches as like Super Mario characters, and Odell's Bowser was like immediate. So
I did love though how you brought up that obviously Oregon State is always a bottom rung Pac-12 school. I mean, and how he got them one of their best recruiting classes while he was there. Was able to really help that kind of grow. That's not Corvallis is not a destination place whatsoever. That school has never been known for doing anything since what was that quarterback that had Anderson in the 90s. They really have anything to really talk about. So to get that as a somewhat of a recruiting class in that division and in that area was pretty impressive. So if that can kind of carry over to us, obviously I'll take it as well.
Yeah, they haven't done shit since like Jaquiz Rogers, and then I can't remember the guy. He was the running back for the Rams, like when they were the bad St. Louis Rams.
Jackson.
Yeah.
The only reason I know is because he's from Vegas as well. Yeah, he's a Vegas.
Well, what I tried to actually get from that, other than giving the guy some of his props, I wanted to, and I don't know if it got conveyed because it's kind of a clunky thing to ask, like on an interview, but I wanted to make it interesting. Is that there has been the perception and probably some of the reality that Mike Norvell's been having a hard time like upgrading like assistant coaches because he's in the middle of his tenure, and his tenure is kind of like on a razor's edge, right? Like if he wins, cool. Like he could be FSU's head coach for a long time. If he has a disappointing season, you're looking at possible lame duck and like fired status. So I wanted to convey like, hey, you're doing a good thing. Well, you weren't one of Mike Norvell's first initial hires. Did you get any pause, like accepting a job from a coach that at least nationally, he's definitely not so much from a local perspective, but from like a national media perspective, a lot of guys have him on a hot seat.
Did that give you any pause? Just because I wanted to kind of maybe extrapolate that out and see, like, yeah, this is something that's talked about in the coaching community, which is why they're having difficulty maybe making some upgrades at some other spots, as it's been reported. He didn't really get into that because he's a pro, but that's also what I was trying to kind of get at there as well.
Well, he did move a pregnant wife across the country, so obviously he has a lot of faith in Mike being around.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially for somebody that's never worked with him before. I will say one thing that I don't know if this is going to be frustrating for fans or not. Everybody freaked out about the water balloon shit or whatever at the end of the camp, and it's fun trolling material. I will say that he made a point that their recruiting efforts, they're never gonna recruit like a Georgia or an Alabama. All those guys have a style, right? And it's that family, meet everybody at the front gates, welcome the recruits, that kind of family style, which is different than most of the other high performing teams that you see, like the Alabamas, Georgias, Ohio States, and stuff like that. But Derrick also said, hey, we're gonna try to stay on the cutting edge. We're gonna be different, and we're also gonna be authentic. So I think if fans are ever hoping that it gets to that cutthroat Saban level, even if these guys have a huge degree of success, I didn't get the vibe that it's ever gonna get that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm sorry, I got to jump off, guys. I got to go jump in a meeting that I've got to pretend to care about, but I'll keep listening. But definitely appreciate it, Trey and TJ.
F that meeting.
Always, man. I know, man.
God,
but it's face to face with the client via Zoom, so I got to not be talking to y'all while I'm doing that.
Screen to screen.
Fuck out of here. Get out of here.
See you, Joshua. Thanks, man. Trey, where can people find it? You can also stay on if you want to and talk with these people with me, or you can just get the hell out of here. So it doesn't really matter to me.
I already ate lunch. Maybe I'll chill for a little bit. Yeah, it's on the Bench Facebook feed. So just check that out. We're expanding that feed to more of an actual podcast network. So all the X's and Noles, that stuff, you really want to subscribe to the YouTube pages so you can see it live. It really helps with build. The audio is pretty good too if you don't have a chance. But we're going to be putting a lot of different stuff on that feed in addition to the On the Bench kind of flagship podcast. So just check it out, subscribe, and tell people. And subscribe to the Noles 24/7. It's 60% off. Tell people I sent you so they don't fucking send me out to the gulag or something with Brittany Griner. So just sign up and tell them I sent you.
Jokes too soon. Shout out my guy Johnny Buckets on the YouTube who just got the polo and a long sleeve dry fit from Garnet and Gold. Good deal, go Noles. So shout out Johnny Buckets on the YouTube. If you're watching on the YouTube, Alan, what do you got going on here, bro? Sheesh. He really remember the last time he came on, he was like, I'm moving some dirt on my property. That was the big thing he said. Alan, I'll get you off mute in just a minute. But shout out to garnetgold.com spaces 15. Again, if you're watching on the YouTube, hit the share button, share this to your social media, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate that. All right, Alan, you can unmute. You can come back on here. I want to, but turn that forklift off, bro. What do you got going on over here? This is Alan from Tampa.
I'm in an excavator in a hole in Sarasota.
How's it going, man? Outside of being in
Georgia asphalt.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Sitting outside is amazing. Or sitting inside is amazing.
3 weeks from tomorrow, we'll get in the motorhome. We'll head up to Tallahassee, get ready for the season. And I think a big the way a measurement for the season is going to go, if we have our starters in the game in the fourth quarter against, however you say their name, DeQuizney, Duquesne, I think it's going to be a long year.
Yeah, I agree. I think they need to blow them the heck out. I think that needs to be, starters coming out at 45-3 in the late in the third quarter, right? And then whatever happens in the fourth happens. But yeah, Florida State obviously didn't do a good job of taking care of business early in the year against a team like Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State. Did a better job later in the year against UMass. I think that was 59-3. Probably learned their lesson there. I think Jacksonville State probably beats UMass, so I don't want to make those apples for apples. But I think we need to blow them out. You come by the tailgate though?
Yeah, I'm gonna come by. Yeah, we're going up Friday morning, and we got to take some stuff up to our box and put in our box, and then we'll be around all weekend. But it's just we can't let those teams hang around. I remember this is our 29th year with season tickets, and I remember we used to years ago we couldn't afford a motorhome, so we drove back and forth. And I remember Maryland halftime, 45-3. We head home, you know.
Yeah.
But those days have been long ago.
If it makes you feel any better, I can't afford a motorhome right now either. So, all right,
I got
you know,
one now. I'm
don't flex. Don't flex so hard.
We have a 45-foot bus, a diesel pusher. But,
Woo! Bro, Alan from Tampa. I should just ride up with you. What part of Tampa are you in?
I'm in Riverview, actually.
Oh my!
Alan,
So,
you don't want any part of that. That'll be a long fucking ride for you, man.
yeah, bro. Three more kids coming with me. So,
Well, you can sit back there with my grandkids in the bed. We got track and satellite, and they watch Disney Channel. You can watch Disney Channel.
my kids will love that, bro. I'm gonna find a different bed and fall asleep in it because it'll be a break. But my kids will sit back there and love it, man. It'd be great.
We're coming back from Jacksonville yesterday. We have a golden retriever, Bella. And when I was working in Jacksonville, we're driving my bus down the interstate. And my wife goes back to the refrigerator and gets my dog a vanilla cup of ice cream. So she's holding the damn ice cream for the dog. The dog's licking the fucking ice cream. It's sitting in her lap. And the truck driver comes by, slams his brakes on, backs up. He's sitting there watching the dog eat the ice cream, laughing his ass off.
Oh, the life of Alan in Tampa.
Now, the life of my dog, Bella. Hell, she's got the life, man. I'm out here working in the hot-ass sun. When I left this morning, she's laying in bed asleep.
Somebody's got to afford those RV payments, bro. That gas tank can't be cheap either.
8 miles to the gallon. Got a 125-gallon tank.
Whew. Alan, we'll see you in Tallahassee in just a few weeks.
Exactly the tailgate. Where are you going to be at?
Yeah, so info's coming out on that today, but just so you know, right at the Heritage Fountain. So kind of where we were for the spring game, where we were for the Notre Dame game. So I'll hit you up. Absolutely.
All right, guys. Take care, man. Thanks for letting me on.
Thanks, buddy. Also calling from an RV right now, Ingram Smith. Ingram, how's it going?
Yo, is it possible to get notifications whenever Alan joins a space?
Dude, I wish.
Incredible. Incredible, man. It starts off just, I'm backing up on my commercial equipment here. 1 second. Oh, yeah, TJ, I got 4 RVs, and it's been good. Life is going well for me. It's damn. All right, Alan. Good for you, man.
If Alan's not giving
I got 8 golden retrievers right now.
if Alan's not giving a Rising Spear, I'm quitting. Like, I'm just, there's no point in even trying anymore if that's the case. But, 27 years a booster and a season ticket holder. Shout out my guy, Alan.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Trey, thoroughly enjoyed your piece this morning. I thought I was listening to a deposition for the first 6 or 8 minutes. Despite your attempt to liven things up, but the information was really enjoyable, and I had heard in the pipeline that was coming out, and I was excited to listen to that and wasn't disappointed at all. So I would certainly suggest people go take a look at the Noles 247 feed and find that interview because it's a good listen. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like the old Andy Dufresne rock hammer. I'll chip away at you enough to where you'll give me some shit. It just takes me some time with some more people. But thank you, Ingram, a venerable and respected ear of the Florida State media market. I appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, man, absolutely. No, it's been good. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to this series and love what y'all are doing over there. Certainly, I'd almost use that word that I hate, plethora, but a ton of options for people. And I've really enjoyed what the feed has evolved into over the past couple months.
Oh, thanks, man. Just trying to keep up with you, big dog. What do you think, man? You listened to it too. I mean, were you encouraged, discouraged? I mean, what did you think? I was trying to get at him too. Does he think that he has the appropriate amount of resources? And obviously he knows who's listening, so he's not going to complain about what he's working with, right?
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask, see if you might. That might be a fun little thing.
Yeah, I think it's in the former spacer joiner, or however we're supposed to refer to. How do we refer to people here, TJ? What is it? Space joinee or something like that?
I just call them. I just say callers unless it's Alan. Then I just say that Rich.
Oh,
MF.
callers. Okay, yeah. I want to work space into it though. So the space guy two times before me made a great point. I mean, you don't get a guy who's never worked on the East Coast and with a pregnant wife to drag his wife and family all the way across the country if you aren't offering him a significant upgrade and willing to build out a room that is reflective of really ambitious individual, which that's what Derrick is in that industry. So I think that, you're not out resourcing Ohio State, all the stuff that all the people that listen to these type of things know. I don't need to list off Ohio State, Alabama, et cetera. But I think Florida State has made a drastic leap in the last 18 months to give every resource possible and has kind of reassigned / reapplied some people within that building to areas that they are, more likely to succeed in or be better assets. So I think, things are improving. Certainly, I thought the information and how they managed that and really almost sounded like more a data scientist operation for a period of time there was really interesting. And I'm not dismissing what he's saying, but I certainly think it's easier when you can't recruit as a Bama, Alabama, Ohio State to say that, like, hey, we're not going to recruit like Bama, Ohio, Alabama, or be that type of cutthroat program. We'll see what happens as things evolve, and hopefully Florida State sometime in the next 5 to 10 years is even in a place to daydream about being ruthless with scholarships, etc. But I think Derrick's a real big piece as to the improvements that they've made behind the scenes, and then you kind of lucked out with a little bit of a signing bonus plus, if you will, with this relationship with the Nicholson kid. And I think you're going to end up signing a linebacker that certainly Randy Shannon would probably not have ever dreamt of signing in and of himself. So that's always a nice bonus when you kind of luck into these individual kids that sometimes have relationships with guys.
Yeah, it's easy to zig when everybody else is zagging when you don't have the resources to do it. It's easier to sell roast beef sandwiches than hamburgers when you're Arby's, right? And we're kind of Arby's now, so it's easy to inefficiencies, and we're trying to exploit this and be different and cutting edge. I am interested to see because there is resources behind it. I talked with Matthew Quigley from Rousing Spear, the collective. There seems to be selective yet very interesting movement on that front, to where I'm more positive about that organization a lot more than I was a few weeks ago. I am interested to see once this thing starts ramping up, and if we do see the success this year, how much of that was just bullshit getting through an interview talk, or it's like now we're firing on all cylinders. It's like, okay, now we're gonna be what the blueprint is.
We've got 2 great case studies, I think, Trey, and I think what you're saying is very valid. The first study is Lucas Simmons. You signed that kid because you got it, big boy, relatively speaking, involved in NIL, and were able to compete with other players. And the Hakeem Williams case study is playing out in front of our eyes. Now, please don't extrapolate that if they get 2 wins here, I think Florida State's going to sign like the 3rd overall class or something like that. That's certainly not going to happen. But I have been fairly confident for about a month or so that Florida State is going to recruit much more kind of quote unquote to the back of their baseball card and sign classes that are somewhere in kind of that 6 to 14 range with some degree of consistency. And I think a large part of that is you're not going to revolutionize things in the NIL game, and there's never going to be a, hey, did you see the latest stupid ass tweet by the Florida State NIL guy or something like that? That's not what this program is, and the support is not somebody that's looking for attention based off how they support Florida State football. But I do think that FSU has their collective house in order to a degree that's almost hard to verbalize based off where they were, and to an extent, based off where they were was so inexcusable that almost kind of undermines the progress that they've made, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like you said, it's been very encouraging to see just because it started off so bad. Every military operation in Cuba looks good after the Bay of Pigs, right? So it's we're doing a little bit better. I am interested to see what the potential ceiling of that is. Like, we're being selective now. Is there going to be a point where we don't have to be selective anymore? Or are they always going to be selective? Maybe just because you have more resources, that doesn't mean you have to deploy them in a non-strategic manner. Like, maybe they just get better at that targeted approach. I don't know. I'm just interested. We're doing this one thing now, but do we ultimately want to do something different? And if so, how wildly so? And I don't have the answer to that yet. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the as constructed right now, absent very rich, affluent females or people, selling a business or somebody winning a 11-digit lotto. I think Florida State's ceiling is right around 6th or 7th as far as the best class that they could sign with where they are, kind of NIL, geographically, relationships on the horizon. Be fascinating. Hey, look, go win 8 games this year. And if you want to talk about case studies, we've got a hell of a case study in the 2024 class because you've got some really talented kids committed that aren't even worth stressing about, in my opinion, as to whether or not they're going to stay committed. I know. Yes, don't. Not yet. Not a 24 kid. And you've got a chance to get back involved in some of those kids that you had real unique relationships with. So, let's hope that we're pushing up against that proverbial glass ceiling next year, figuring out exactly how high Florida State can go with a full NIL support and the smallest bit of progress to sell as to what they've actually achieved on the field.
I've got an on the field to take this in a totally different direction, but I do enjoy. I could listen to you guys talk forever. The Nolecast was my first podcast that I ever listened to, and Trey's my favorite podcaster I've ever listened to, and so
you, Richie. How about that? I know you're listening in your face, nerd.
I don't even like Richie. We're under contract. Like, what are you talking about? No, Richie's probably got the best podcasting voice I've ever heard. If we're keeping that.
Oh, we love Richie, dude. He's the super producer. Come on, man. He knows.
Harlan likes to try and take that title over. All right, hypothetical. The guy hit my DMs, and I want to hear what you guys think. I think this is actually pretty easy. Chad sent me this. Before I get to this, I've had like 4 people message me and ask what the Garnet and Gold code is. Spaces15. Spaces15 will save you 15% off right now at garnetandgold.com. All caps, all lowercase, doesn't matter. Spaces15. You save 15% there, and it's tax-free weekend. Go check the top of the space. I put up a couple of cool items, an FSU, LSU co-branded item, and then a Vault Nike Polo that I saw some of the sizes on that are already gone. Y'all need to order that before it's out because that thing is fire. All right, hypothetical. I think this one's pretty easy, but I'll get you guys' take. Maybe I'm missing something or I'm overthinking it. Would you rather lose to LSU, Louisville, and Wake Forest? So you start the season 2-3, but you win out. Or you go 9-3, but your 3 losses are to our 3 rivals, UM, UF, and Clemson.
Man, I put so much importance on what they need to do at the beginning of the year that I'm taking the latter. I mean, it's not fun to take it in the face from the rivals, but they can't start off that. They can't have a 2-3 start. It's too crippling, man. And if the records are the same, if you're saying 2 9-3s with some wins that we fans would obviously relish a lot more, dude, starting off that front stretch is so important for recruiting and what you can sell and locking these kids in. So you're not trying to flip kids on early signing day, right? Like you got to keep these commitments instead of trying to flip them. I mean, with the staff that closing ability right now is still TBD. There's a lot of things they do good. I mean, closing right now is still a huge question mark. I definitely take the latter, I believe, out of the 2 scenarios.
Yeah, you can't lose your first 2. You can't lose your first 2 real games of the season. If I can be selfless or shameless and promote the Nolecast here, we were talking about the prospects of getting a potential commitment out of Hakeem Williams last night. And Bud said, you win 2 of your first 3 games, I think you got a better than 50-50 chance of getting that kid to commit should he move up his timeline. And recruiting just doesn't – rivals games just don't matter in recruiting anymore, particularly the Florida game. I mean, it's just a different day and age. I've been following recruiting for a long time, so I'll throw out a historical reference. Florida State in 1996 played the game where they – all but tried to kill Danny Warfel, right? Got pretty close.
Very Greg Williams-esque.
At that point in time, the number 1 player in the country, David Warren, contacted Florida State the next Monday and requested to set up an official visit. Okay, that's the number 1 player in the country still with flexible official visits going into December. That was when recruiting used to happen. Recruiting happens, or decisions are made 12, 14, 18 months earlier than they used to. I just don't think look, everybody wants to beat Florida, right? But as far as a direct impact on recruiting, I think that game has almost no difference of an impact on any other game that you could possibly play.
Too late. It'll lock in and secure what you have, but it's not a difference maker. You can't have another season where Florida State is a non-factor in any national discussion by week 2. You can't do it again.
If you have that, okay. So I was leaning to beat the rivals because I didn't really think about the recruiting aspect of it. I just kind of like saw the 3 rivals. But if it goes down the way you guys just said, you're going into the Clemson game at 6-0. And if you've just beat NC State on the road, there's no reason to think that you can't beat Clemson. That's the game day game. Like it's an 8 p.m. ABC game. Every official visit will be rescheduled for that weekend. It'll be 8 o'clock prime time. And, in this scenario, we're saying we lose it, but yeah, I need that atmosphere back in Tallahassee. The only reason we're going to have it this year against Florida is because they've kind of like fake made it that and play the game on a Friday night, or else that was going to be another nooner. But go into that game 6-0, then you beat Georgia Tech. So you're 7-1. You're still ranked in the top 10 because your only loss is to Clemson. Play another ranked Miami team. So yeah, I'm all about that. I think you finished the year.
Yeah, I don't see the Florida atmosphere being worth a damn either, to be perfectly honest with you. I am concerned with how many people are going to show up for a Friday night.
Oh, really?
Day after Thanksgiving game. So I don't know that that's quite the cauldron that perhaps it would be. So we'll see, man. You just can't. It's disturbing how important weeks 2 and 3 are. Okay. I mean, it is. It just matters an awful lot as to the success the staff is going to have, the message and how it'll be, delivered and received on the recruiting trail. It's just a lot of chips are getting pushed into the first 2 weeks, two non-week zeros of this year.
That's such an easy recruiting pitch too, man. If you run, like we just ran out of gas at the end. Look,
a couple injuries.
We're fresh. You are the difference. Like you're the difference. You get us from 9-3 to in the college football play. Like that's, dude. I'm a garden variety shithead, and I could push that recruiting pitch like looking like $1 trillion.
Can you put that in your bio?
It should be known if you've heard any piece of content I've ever done in my life. So I think it's just assumed, but maybe I will switch that up.
You'd trade. I mean, like if I offered you the options right now of split week 2 and 3, you'd take that over playing it out, right? Because you're assuming you have a 3-1 start at that point.
Talking about you're guaranteeing me 1-1 versus LSU and Louisville,
right?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, I definitely would.
Then you got to beat Wake. Yeah, I mean, it's this front 4 or 5 games is going to be pretty interesting to see how it's navigated and the success you have. And then, what do you have, 12 games between LSU and Louisville? I mean, that's kind of your own opportunity to get another line of kids ready, and would certainly make sense if you've got a kid like an AZ Thomas or something like that you want to move into a starting position. I would expect that's something you might see.
Yeah. Oh, let's see here. See if we have any other good questions or bad questions. We're all about bad questions here too.
Absolutely.
Does our actually I don't want to ask that. Sorry. Jordan. Yeah, your question was good, but it just leads to another rabbit hole that I don't think we should go down today. Maybe never mind, I won't say it. But I know you guys aren't out there at practice. I know you guys aren't watching it, but based on everything you're seeing, what do you think you guys think about Jordan Travis as a passer this year? We got a couple of those on YouTube.
Well, from everything that I've heard, and like I said, I'm not directly out there, but reviewing the film and obviously constant communication with those guys that are there, boots on the ground, they've been extremely encouraged by I don't want to say evolution, I want to say the progression of Jordan Travis as a passer. There was a lot of times on the X's and Noles show, we review his mechanics, and there was a clear disconnect between his top half and his bottom half. A lot of times they didn't seem to be in sync. From what we've seen from the back half of the year, from all the video, from all the film that we've broken down, he looks extremely comfortable. The mechanics look comfortable. The footwork looks pretty fluid. So I'm very encouraged by what I've seen. Now, obviously, there's limitations that are always going to be there. I think depending on who you talk to, they're a lot more pronounced than they should be as far as what Jordan Travis can be, which is he can be a really, really good college quarterback. He's shown to be a really, really good college quarterback, even with some blemishes on his game. The thing that I'm really looking forward for him to take the next step, and I don't know how much of a function of it last year was play calling versus comfort, to kind of like take the short intermediate throws over the middle of the field. There's a lot of questions of how many of those routes did Kenny Dillingham even call? I don't even know, and that's a good question for another day. But I'm looking for him to be more comfortable taking the short crossing stuff over the middle of the field. And I'm also looking for him. There was a lot of times where when he flips into full athlete mode, there's no question he looks like one of the better players on the field, depending on what team you're looking at. There's always the hesitancy that I saw last year of when to step up in the pocket, when to make the throw. And that hesitancy led to a decent amount of poor plays last year, negative results. I'm looking for him, his pocket awareness. Obviously, he's always got the ability to tuck it and run. But kind of combined with his progression of his mechanics and the kind of the increased fluidity that he has, I'd like to see him be more comfortable climbing a pocket to make a throw rather than scan, nothing, bolt.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a bad habit of confusion, pump fake, roll right, and he needs to break that. But I do think that he's improved as a passer. What makes Jordan special is what he can do in the open field and what he can do when he's a runner. But if that special talent makes him all the better of a passer, then so be it. And I think he has a chance to really emerge. And I think I threw something out a month ago or so, TJ, that if he stays healthy, I legitimately think Jordan throws for 3,400 and flirts with like 800 yards rushing. I think he's got a chance to do a type of level of production that we haven't seen around here in a very long time. So we'll see. Obviously, got to have a band of wide receivers emerge and has had a little bit of a speckled injury past, stay healthy, which I'm always concerned about. But I think the prospects of Jordan having like a really significant developmental year is there.
And Ingram, even to follow up on you saying, I think that Jordan Travis has a unique ability to even have better stats than his ability as a pure passer, just for the way that he can manipulate the defense where they're on the field because of the threat of his rushing. Just as you've seen, dude, the stats when Jordan Travis is in the game as far as like affecting the running game, like that's something where the whole running game becomes much more effective when Jordan's on the field. Well, yeah, no shit, right? Absolutely. I think the same thing can happen on the passing game, taking advantage of some of the play fakes, some of the motion, things like that, sucking up linebackers and safeties to even like he could have better stats than an actual passer than he may be, just because he's got the defense out of position with just the mere threat of his run game, and then all the things that Mike Norvell's gonna like build off of that. So that's the X factor for Jordan Travis. Like, I mean, limitations are limitations, but the pros so much outweigh that. It's interesting.
I want you guys to you guys are welcome to stay for as long as you want. I don't know how much longer I'll keep going, but I do want to ask you one more thing, and then if you want to keep hanging out or if you want to check up the deuces and
I'll
go do something else
deuce after this.
Okay, cool.
Respectful deuce.
Appreciate it. So I want to ask both of you. I'm going to give a quick plug and then go ahead. But I want to ask both of you for 2 bold predictions for this upcoming season. Richie and I did some the other day on Double Fries, and I saw that was fun. Ingram, I don't know if you guys have done any yet, or Trey, if you've done any on the 18 on the bench podcast that happened. But a couple of bold predictions. Before we do that, this is a real teaser because I know that people are tuned in just for that. I want to shout out my buddy Tony over at DSP Insurance Services. If you own a business, if you are in HR, if your employees need benefits, or if they currently have them, but you want to see if your company can save a little bit of money, hit Tony up at DSP Insurance. It's DSPINS.com. They will do a free consultation based on you listening to the FSU Spaces. Just tell them that you heard about us here. Hit up Tony. They develop a true risk roadmap to take care of your employees. Again, see if he can save you some money. He's licensed in all 50 states. Give them a shout today. If you missed any of that or you need the info, just shoot me a DM and I'll get you guys hooked up. So shout out DSP Insurance and Tony. All right, Ingram, Trey, some bold predictions. You got to do 2 for this upcoming football season.
I'm gonna let you go first, Ingram. I'm not good with bold predictions, man. I try to stay kind of like milk toast until I like see the shit on the field.
No.
And maybe that's
just lie, man. It's camp season.
Mechanism.
It's camp season.
I can't do that, man.
Wrong
So,
with you?
but you go first.
Just shut up, Trey. Jesus.
I like to be real measured.
I'll go with what I just. The stats that I just said on Jordan are one of them. The other one is that Briggs is a second-team defensive end at the end of the year. And if Clemson didn't have the ludicrous amount of defensive talent along the defensive line, I would say that guy might flirt with being a first-team all-conference player. So there's mine. Not season-related, but just recruiting. You don't get any prizes for coming in second, and I don't think you're going to do better than second. But the Shelton Sampson kid is worth keeping an eye on, whereas 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have kind of laughed at the idea of you ever signing that rated and that talented of a kid out of Baton Rouge. So there you go.
Bubbly, before Trey goes, Bubbly Brielle. I want to make sure I get this handle right. At BUBBLYBRELLE. If anybody wants to go at her, wants to know if the collective fan base will apologize when we land Shelton Sampson on Saturday.
To whom? Yeah. I'll apologize to anybody. I'm a hoe. Like I'll do whatever.
I'll apologize to anybody.
I don't give a shit. Yeah, whatever.
That would be remarkable, and it would certainly be so good that Ingram's feet cut out.
Yeah, God was like, I can't let him lie on this right now.
Yeah, whatever. I'll apologize to fucking anybody. Just give me the act. Is it even a bold prediction to say that there's a good chance that half of Florida State's defense could maybe be a first or second team all ACC? Is that bold or
no? Half of the defense. So, okay, so who would yours be? Robinson Dent, Bethune. Love it.
And then one of the inverse, and then maybe Briggs. Like you could have like 6 guys first or second team.
Is there
bold or no?
Is there an all? Would that count like in an all first year team too? Because then you could throw in like Thomas as well, or like an all. Is there like an all rookie team or all freshman team?
Yeah, I thought 6 selections on the first and second team from the defense. I think is a possibility, and I'd love to see. That might be more bold when you look at the lack of those type of selections that we've had in recent history. But no, there's some kids that I see that defense could really be the cornerstone of like a top. Shit, dude, like a top 20 unit, top 15, 20 unit. It could be. I mean, and a lot of people are down on Adam Fuller, which I understand for some like recruiting reasons and some really big gaps at really inopportune times. I'm not going to go into specific detail. That's my bold prediction. This is the Adam Fuller redemption season. Because I think that he's got enough talent throughout the defense. Obviously, we're missing some of the top-end talent from last year, like Jermaine Johnson. You're not going to be able to replace that kid for kid. But I think that the talent has kind of spread throughout all the levels of the defense and the cohesion, where it's actually going to open up a lot more things that Adam Fuller can do. When he was the defensive coordinator at Marshall and Memphis, he had some really interesting ideas with coverage, disguising coverages, exotic blitzes, which is shit that we did not do last year. We played cover 4 and never blitzed and let the NZ. And it made sense, right? We kept it easier on our guys. With the experience that you added at all 3 levels and the experience and talent that's kind of accumulated, Adam Fuller is going to have way more options available to him to where I think this is going to be seen as like the Adam Fuller redemption year for the defense. That's my bold prediction. Or does everybody still hate him, or is that like gold now? Everybody hates like Dugans and Thompson and everything. Do people still hate Adam Fuller? I don't even know anymore.
I don't hate Adam Fuller. No,
I don't. Well, you're you're fairly reasonable. But no, I think that this is the year where it's like, oh, okay, he's a pretty damn good defensive coordinator. and then just surround them with a bunch of recruiters. That's my bold prediction.
Richie also had them with the top 10 defense. That was one of his bold predictions on.
Oh, God, I don't know about that, man. I don't know if the doubt's that good. But
Yeah.
that is bold. It's much bolder than that.
Yeah, it's much bolder than your vanilla toast there. Trey, if you need to run, you can. Ingram, if you need to run, you certainly can as well. But I appreciate you guys for both hanging out. Ingram, if you don't need to run, you can stay. I won't run you off.
Yeah, man, it's fun. Now I got to bounce. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Good talking with you, Trey. TJ, I'll be in touch.
Always, dude. As always, you piece of shit. Anyway, love you guys. I will talk to you all later. You're the best. Love you. Bye.
See you guys. Yeah, I had a couple other good questions. Oh, I thought I said, I'm sorry. Richie said top 20. Top 20. Did I say top 10 on here? My bad. So can someone paint a picture? This is a good one from Logan. I'll get the Florida Gator guy back on here too, because I do want to hear kind of he seemed reasonable. I think so here's a big problem, and I contributed to this. Before I get to Logan's question, I contributed to this, so this is my fault. But I think that Twitter was like so heavily used as trolling from like 2012 to like 2016 that like that's all new people do now is just troll. And I know I still get off a good amount of trolls, but it's to the point now where like you can't have reasonable discussions with people. Because like if I say like a month ago, which Florida's done a good job on the trail the last month, but if a month ago I would have said Florida's not doing very well under Billy Napier in recruiting, like that's just an objective fact. Like that's not like me trolling me, and the first reply every time to that is, well, you lost to Greg Knox, right? Like every single time. Or if I say Miami's not doing really well in something, the first reply is, well, we're rich now and we have Daddy Ruiz. And so like there's just or you guys suck, or you guys haven't made a bowl in 4 years. And all those things are true, but like we were just trying to like talk football. So again, most of that's my fault. Like I'll take some blame for that because again, everything we did for like 6 years on this app was just troll and make like ESPN analysts hate us and stuff. But it does kind of stink that you just, I'm afraid to even add somebody with a rival logo on here because I think that everything's just going to be a troll because nobody knows how to have conversations anymore. Okay, Logan asked this. So anyway, that's me apologizing to you guys. It's my fault for making Twitter the way that it is, I guess. TheGramco.com, TJ25. If people are hurting your feelings in your mentions and you're a baby like I am, get your Delta 8 THC products from them. Can we paint a picture of what we were up against in LSU and Brian Kelly? Is this game genuinely winnable? I think this game is genuinely winnable. People have been in my mentions and Richie's mentions and Garnet and Gold's mentions for like 48 hours now, talking about how we're crazy for having LSU as our fifth toughest game. I think it is our fifth toughest game. I think the Clemson game is tougher. I think the NC State game is tougher. I think the game at Miami is going to be tougher this year. And then I also have Louisville slightly above at number 4 and LSU at number 5. The biggest reason for that is because I trust Malik Cunningham a little bit more than I trust who I think is going to start for LSU, no matter what Blake Ruffino said on here the other day. I think Brennan's going to end up starting. And so Louisville just worries me a little bit more. I also think if you just look, and I know everything has not come down to the Vegas lines, but if you just look at the Vegas lines, right? Like if you just look at what the projected lines are right now, Florida State is a 3-point dog to LSU in a stadium that is 45 minutes from LSU's campus. If that's not Vegas telling you that should be a game and that will be a winnable game and that game is essentially just a coin flip, then you obviously don't know what lines mean or anything else. I think that is absolutely a winnable game. I think that Florida State Louisville will be a wider spread when we go up there. And so, yeah, I think the Louisville game is slightly tougher. I think that when we go down to Miami, they'll be a bigger than a 3-point favorite. I think that when we go to NC State and when Clemson comes here, they'll be both more than a 3-point favorite. And so that's kind of how I tried to do my rankings. I don't know what Richie did on his, but yes, the LSU game is absolutely winnable. There's a reason it's only a 3-point spread. That's a brand new system. The people that say, they'll have film on us from our Duquesne game. If you think that Mike Norvell's showing anything in that game, for all of his faults and for all the things that we get on him for and the fan base doesn't like, if you think Mike Norvell's going to have to pull out anything against Duquesne that LSU is going to be able to use on film the next week, I mean, get out of here. I'll show you some Oceanside space in Utah because that's insane. That will be the most vanilla run the ball game like you saw against UMass last year. I don't think LSU is going to have anything to take away from on film on that. And again, that is our 5th toughest game. Maybe lower, but we'll keep them at 5th from right now. When the season's over, we'll revisit this, and I'll show you that game was closer than at least 4 of our other games. Now that I'm off that rant, what we're up against LSU and Brian Kelly, we did a space on Monday or Tuesday. If you go back and check it out, I had Blake Ruffino from Are You Serious Sports, LSU site and website, podcast and show on the pod. He was on the space for about 30 minutes. I'm not going to try and remember and repeat everything that he said. I'd say go watch the last 30 minutes of that space. It's here on Twitter. It's also on the YouTube and on Patreon and everywhere else. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to tell you guys that everything that he said about the team. He's pretty cautiously optimistic. He hasn't put in a prediction. I'm sure he'll pick LSU to win by like 3 or so, just like, I'll probably end up picking Florida State to win by 2 or 3. But I think that that's a winnable game, but I think you should go check out his thoughts as opposed to me trying to remember them and repeat them. Somebody also just asked, and then I'll add the Florida Gator recruiting guy to talk about the Gators just a bit. And then if anybody else has any more questions, we'll take those. If not, we'll get out of here for the day. I will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. With another space and a special guest that I'm just working on confirming. So 3 p.m. tomorrow for one more space. This week. Somebody asked, are we worried about the week 1 game? We did lose a game like that last season. I'm not worried about that at all. Mostly because I just don't have the mental energy or the brain capacity to be worried about that. If we end up losing that game, then I just, not really because we do the pod and the spaces and everything else, but I just kind of get to check out for the rest of the year and not worry about anything. So yeah, I'm not really worried about that 1%, maybe less than 1% I'm worried, but I know we lost a game similar last year. Duquesne's not on the level of Jacksonville State. We nearly lost to Jacksonville State the year before. We were down by 14 points when Blackman went out and Jordan Travis came in. And so, I don't think it should be too surprising that we ended up losing that game because we nearly lost it the year before. So, Duquesne is nowhere near Jacksonville State. Florida State did rebound when they played another bad team late in the year in UMass and blew the pants off of them. I also think that it hurt Florida State that they played Jacksonville State in week 2 as opposed to week 1, coming off the emotional loss to Notre Dame. So, no, I'm not worried about Duquesne one bit. With some injuries and things, I could be worried about Louisiana later in the year, but I am not. I'm not. That's too far off for me to worry about it right now. So we'll see kind of when week 11 rolls around. All right, Florida Gator recruiting page, Gators tracker. Somebody asked, and I'll ask you, I want to talk about your schedule a little bit, your expectations kind of on the field this year for Napier's first year. Want to ask just kind of what your expectations are, what the fan base's expectations are for the Gators this year. You there with me, bud? You're on mute if you can hear me. Richie, can you give me a thumbs up or if you can see him as a speaker? Sometimes it adds speakers and they're not really there. Or hard or something. I don't know if you guys can see him or if it's just kind of tricking me. Yeah, so you can see him. All right. Jump in anytime, man, or shoot me a DM when you're ready. Got another question in the DM. Pretty good one. Atlantic champs, Clemson or the field? Yeah, I'd take Clemson over the field. I don't think we can win it. I don't think Wake can win it. So you're essentially asking me if I think it's Clemson or NC State. And so I'd take Clemson in that situation. Last year, probably, now going into the year, we didn't know that Clemson was going to be slightly down. So, yeah, I'd take Clemson until they, I think they're going to be a little bit better than they were last year. I think they're going to take a small step forward. I think they end up winning it. NC State's the only team that can challenge them, and I like them to be the Wolfpack. So, love to be wrong. I'd love for it to be us, but yeah, give me Clemson there. That's a good question. Allen, the other Rich Allen, I believe. I think this Allen was rich too. If not, Allen, let me know. But let me know if you're rich or not. Said he'll give a bold 10-win season prediction. I think there's an absolute best case scenario to get to 10 wins. It involves winning a bowl. It involves a lot of things breaking your way and going right. I see a path to it. I don't think it's super realistic. I don't think it's something that's going to end up happening. But if they find a way to get to 10 wins this year, it would be massive, right? I think if they get to 10 wins, I think they could finish with like a 12 or 13-ish recruiting class. I saw somebody ask Chris Nee the other day about how many kids that Florida State was going to take. And so I have a take on this, and I want to kind of see if anybody else has thought about this or anything like that. But we do get really, really hyped up about the actual recruiting classes and where they finish and different things like that. What I'll say is if you look at the differences between like 247's rankings and the new On3 rankings that everyone hates, except for Florida State fans, because Florida State's ranked a lot higher there, you don't get credit on On3 for like the class stuffers, right? Like the really lowly rated 4 stars or the 3 stars. You don't get credit for just having more kids in your class. And On3 seems to lean a little bit more toward the average than just your total number of recruits. And 247 does give a lot of credence to how many kids you end up taking. And that's why Clemson would take like 8 5-stars and, 5 highly rated 4 stars, and their class would only have like 13 kids, and they'd be like 8th every year. Whereas on 3, some of those old classes by Clemson would have been like top 2 and 3 every year. And so that's why Florida State is ranked where they are. If you look at which I'll pull it up while we're chatting. Team rankings 247, and then team rankings on 3. The class averages are very, very similar on both websites. So right now, so just kind of for example, Florida's class average, when we click over to the class of 2023, Florida's class average is 91.14. Okay. Florida State's is 90.25, right? So it's 0.89 off, right? They're about a point, if you want to round that up, they're about a point better. The On3 rankings, the consensus rankings, have Florida at a 90.706 and have Florida State at an 89.214. Again, just a point, less than a point off. And so On3, and I'm just using Florida State as kind of the example because that's kind of what we focus on and what we see. On3 doesn't give you credit for just having a bunch more kids recruited, right? There are class sizes, there's transfer portal, there's how many guys you lost. The total number of kids in your class really doesn't matter. It's what your average ranking is. And it really always should have been, but you're going to use again, we talked about trolling earlier. You're going to use whatever you can to kind of like boost your credit or, what you think is relevant to your team's needs. But the guys that are never going to end up seeing the field don't end up making the difference in the On3 ranking. So pros and cons to both, but something that I thought was pretty interesting. I can't remember how I got on that subject. Florida Gators recruiting. Maybe that's a good time to bring you back in if you can come off of mute. Okay, there you are. Off mute. All right. I want to know, I know we just talked a little recruiting. I know that you're a recruiting page. What are your expectations, though, on the field this year?
Let me pull up the schedule.
I'll do it for you real quick. I'll tell you. So Utah week 1, Kentucky, USF, and then at Tennessee. Then you've got a cupcake against Eastern Washington, Missouri, LSU, a bye, Georgia, A&M, South Carolina, Vandy, and then Florida State.
Utah, I feel like would be a win just because the talent level. If you look at the talent level, there is a difference there. And it's the first game. I feel like it's gonna be full stadium. I don't know. Utah is kind of a coin flip for me. What do you think on Utah?
Utah was really good last year and returned a lot of pieces. Also, be careful with that whole first game full stadium thing. That thing doesn't always work out like you think it will. Just don't let them play swag surf before the game starts, bro. Like that would be my biggest advice, is not even to Napier, not even to the players, just the people working the music that day. Just keep swag surf off and you guys will probably be fine. No, I agree with you. I think that game is probably a coin flip, right? I think that's probably going one or there. I'd lean Florida right now. Utah was really, really good, though, last year. I mean, there's a reason they won 10 games. They had their quarterback not gone down, they would have beaten Ohio State in the bowl game and only ended up losing that by a touchdown in the Rose Bowl. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be a tough game. I would lean Florida just because it's early in the year, and I think that Anthony Richardson's going to be knock on wood, unless something crazy happen. He's going to be healthy and there for that game. So I'd lean Florida there, but nothing would surprise me. Utah is really, really good. It's the first game for Florida in a new system. I also worry a little bit about Florida just losing quite a bit of production from last year. I know that Florida fans are not necessarily upset about some of these losses, but lost the top 2 touchdown catchers on the team, lost the top running touchdown producer. Sheesh, can't talk. But there's some production that was lost. So I don't know. I could see Utah running the ball fairly well against Florida's interior on defense. I'd lean Florida, but I don't think either team's winning that game by more than a touchdown. So when it's a 1-score game, I mean, it's really whoever makes the least amount of mistakes, right?
Yeah. So say the Utah is 24-21 Florida. You would agree?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see a 24-21 Florida win. I could see it go. Yeah, I could see it something like that either way.
Okay, so that's 1-0, and then you go to Kentucky. I don't think Kentucky's gonna be that good, and here's why. So you have Will Levis, like 80% of his passes and touchdowns was to Wandale Robinson. Who else do they have to receive?
Yeah, I like Florida to win that one too. I actually, so Utah is kind of a toss-up to me. I like Florida to beat Kentucky. I agree with you. That game being in the swamp, it's a night game as well. I think Florida wins there. I think they also beat USF the next week. I don't think that game provides any challenges. I actually think Florida loses to Tennessee the next week in Knoxville, but then beats Eastern Washington. So I've got Florida starting out either 4-1 or 3-2. But then I think that's when the schedule gets pretty tough. They should beat Missouri coming back home, but then having LSU, Georgia, A&M, and South Carolina in 4 straight weeks, that could be like 1-3. And so to me, that's really the stretch that will define Florida's season. I don't see a scenario where they could beat Georgia. I just don't think there's any way possible that they could beat Georgia this year. They could upset A&M.
Think about this. So you remember the 2019 LSU?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Best offense probably ever. Georgia had the best defense ever. And they actually broke LSU's record for people into the NFL. LSU was very talented in that 2020 year.
In 2020?
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, in 2020, they lost Burrow. So, I mean, the fact that you guys were close with them in 2020, who'd they roll out? Like Max Johnson or something at quarterback? So, like, you guys being close with them in 2020 I don't think that matters. So, yeah, I think Georgia this year, this 2022 Georgia team is going to be 5 times better than LSU was in 2020.
Yeah, but they broke the record on putting people into the draft. It's not like you can really.
Yeah, but they reloaded, bro. Like they didn't. Yeah, I don't like. I'll give you that Florida could win. Like they could win any other game on their schedule, but they ain't beating Georgia. They're gonna lose by 3 touchdowns.
I think it's a higher chance this year than it is last year.
I would agree with that because I think Georgia takes a small step back, but I think it's like last year was like 1% and this year is like 4%, or something like that. Like it's just not the same. Like there's a reason the lines are already coming out as like UGA like a 17-point favorite.
I'm more confident in the Georgia game than the Texas A&M game. That's what I'm saying.
So what's your % chance that Florida wins that Georgia game?
40.
Woo! All right, bro. I liked you on that first call better. Did you hand the phone off to somebody else?
No, but as far as the A&M, I'd say probably 25%.
Yeah, I think that's probably a little high too. But yeah, 40% for Florida to beat Georgia this year is is reckless. I love that you have the confidence in your team. Like, I've got no problem with that at all. But Florida to upset Georgia at
This Florida team is not going to be a bad team.
so right now in Vegas, the over-under on Florida's wins and losses is 6.5.
Throw that in the garbage.
So
And here's why.
but basically what you're telling me is that Florida has a good chance to beat Georgia this year. And so their over and under really, like, if they're competing with Georgia, their over under should really be like 10.5. Like, we're talking about like a 9, 10, 11 win Florida team.
I say 9, but here's why. Look at last year. That same team that lost to Alabama by 2 is not the same team that let Stanford put up 52. Not the same team.
Yeah, that's true. You guys had different quarterbacks. You did have different quarterbacks. So
the whole team, you can see it in the body language. They just gave up. If you watch the games, you could. Florida's not worse than South Carolina or Missouri.
but they are worse than Georgia, though. Like, that's not a question.
No, yeah, and I said, and if you watched the Georgia game last year, it was a close game. More than the score indicates, it was a close game.
Until the generational quarterback came in and absolutely like lost it.
That first fumble, that should have been blown dead. If you watch the game, you would know that. The second 2, all right, yeah, he fumbled, but this is what I'm gonna say on that. You have a quarterback that has never started a game. You throw him against the best defense of all time. You know, Jordan Travis would do the exact same thing. Right?
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I think they are similar. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're similar quarterbacks, and yeah, but I'm just telling you, if Florida loses to Georgia by less than 10, you can go back and screen record this. Florida loses by less than 10 to Georgia, I will buy your tickets to the Florida State game or any game you want to go to. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It could be next year. It could be whenever.
And I don't think that we're going to win that. I'm just saying I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people say.
How close? What's your score right now?
Right now, you know, that all depends on how good this defense is. So I can say, you know, Georgia 38, Florida 27.
Woo!
Say that. But
Yeah.
I don't know how, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how good this defense is going to be.
I think that is outlandish, but I'm a fan too, so like, I get it, bro. I'm not gonna like call you names or anything, but I think that's crazy. I like Florida to go 8-4 if they beat Utah. I like them to go 7-5 if they lose to Utah. That's kind of my prediction for Florida.
Where's the 4 losses though?
So you're definitely losing to Georgia. I think we both agree on that. We're definitely losing to A&M.
Sure, yeah.
So I think we both agree on that. So there's 2. If you lose to Utah, that's another one, right? That's kind of the if for me. I think LSU is another potential loss. I think Tennessee.
I think it's a coin toss.
Yeah. I think there are several coin tosses on the game, and you typically go about 50% of your coin tosses. Like, that's just what, you know, when the spread is 3 or less, you're going to go about 50% in those games. So yeah, I think Utah, Tennessee, LSU, Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida State, South Carolina. I think you got 6 games there that are coin tosses or worse. I think Florida ends up losing 4 or 5 of those.
Wow. Yeah.
Will it?
I see that a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it'll. I mean, it wouldn't shock you if Florida started the year 4-1 with only a loss to Tennessee. I don't think that would shock you, right?
No. But
Okay, so you're
more than a Kentucky or a Utah.
all right. I mean, you can flip that. You can say to Kentucky. So say it's Kentucky and you beat Tennessee. So you're starting 4-1, and you got a loss to Kentucky. Well, if you lost to Kentucky, you could lose to LSU, right?
Yeah.
So then there's 2 losses, and then we already talked about Georgia and A&M. So you're 8-4. Like, I don't think I'm like trolling or being like unreasonable.
I just don't see more than 4 losses.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I think this team's going to be a lot better than they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had 7 losses last year, so 4 would be an improvement for sure. No, I think we agree. I think it's 4 losses for Florida this year. If they beat Utah, they're going to go 8-4. If they lose to Utah, then that's when we weren't counting on, and it'll be 1 more loss. 7-5.
Yeah, I would say that the floor is probably 7-5. I don't see them only winning 6.
Yeah, I think 7-5 is probably their most likely. Like that's probably what I would predict, but I think 6-6 is very realistic, especially when you're over under 6.5. Like it's just half a game there. So if you lose to Utah, you could lose to Kentucky, you could lose to Tennessee, you could lose to LSU. If you lose to Utah and Tennessee and Kentucky, you could lose to Florida State. Right now, Florida State's a favorite in that game. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot to be determined. It'll be a lot of that will be determined on, when we get to week 12, who's healthy at quarterback for both teams.
Okay, so with this scenario, what would you think about if they started 5-0 after that's Utah, Kentucky, USF, Tennessee, and Eastern Washington? They start 5-0. What you think about that? The rest of the schedule?
Yeah, so then I think they're going to start 6-0 because I think they're going to beat Missouri for homecoming the very next week.
Oh yeah, Missouri too. Missouri.
I think that LSU game is one that's hard to read either way. That's why I truly have it as a coin flip. You've got two brand new systems. You don't know who the quarterback for LSU is going to be by that point. So that's like a game that's really, really hard to get a read on. I'd lean Florida there just because it's in the swamp. And I'm assuming that Anthony Richardson stays healthy. Like I'm never going to assume a guy gets hurt. So I'd lean Florida there, but I mean, it's so early to know that against LSU. So I'd lean Florida to beat LSU, and then I'd have Florida losing the next two for sure to Georgia and A&M. I'd have them beating South Carolina and Vandy for the most part, and then I'd have the Florida State game as a coin flip, which is where I have it right now.
So you would say probably the ceiling, if everything goes well, 10-2.
The ceiling for me for Florida is 9-3. Like in an absolute best case scenario, I can't see Florida getting to 10 wins. Just too many coin flips in there that Florida has to win, but I have the ceiling at 9-3. Call it 10-3 with a bowl game.
Okay, I think we agree.
All right, my man. I appreciate you for hanging out for a minute. Be safe. I hear you driving though.
Yes, sir.
Oh man. All right, I got somebody else requested here. They're gonna lose. Yeah, they're losing to Georgia by. I might up it to 20. It might be. It's gonna get bad. I do love the confidence though. Sports Newman, how's it going, my man? Sports Newman. I'm not sure if you can hear me. If you're there.
What's going on, TJ? Sorry, I just had to come off mute.
No, you're fine. How's it going?
Pretty good. Just booking some Ireland stuff. But anyway, yeah, I think he's out of his mind. They're going to get smoked by Utah, first off. That team's really good. Cam Rising, since he got put in at quarterback, they've been almost unbeatable. They're going to probably win the Pac-12, and they have a good chance going to the college football playoff thanks to the fact that Florida's going to help with their schedule and shrink the schedule and stuff. But yeah, they're on a mission, and Florida, without Dan Mullen, we think that Anthony Richardson's all of a sudden going to be better and their offense is going to be better. No, I'm not buying it. Plus, Utah's going to run all over them. They're bad at stopping the run. They've been bad at stopping the run for years, and I don't see any reason that changes.
Yeah, I worry about Florida's defensive tackle room. I don't think it's very good. I think they have some good stuff on the edges. I think their linebackers are good. Their secondary maybe took a little bit of a step back, obviously with Dean going. But yeah, I worry about them being able to stop the run. I do think that you make a good point. I think that they, the Florida narrative or the Florida fan narrative is very much that Dan Mullen played favoritism and didn't let Anthony Richardson come in and really handicapped him and played Emory Jones over him. And, it's ludicrous to me to think that coaches at the detriment of their own job would do that. Right. And Dan Mullen ended up getting fired. And so when they did put Anthony Richardson in last year, he ended with 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He also had 3 fumbles that were, he literally had more turnovers than he had scores. And so I just don't necessarily buy that Anthony Richardson is some generational quarterback. A lot of his damage came in those really, really early games against FAU and USF. He did have some nice moments in that LSU game that you ended up seeing. Reminder, a 6-7 LSU team, not kind of a historical 2019 great. But at the same time, he had some really, really boneheaded mistakes that ended up costing Florida that LSU game. And so I think Anthony Richardson at best last year was very hot and cold. When he was good, he was great, and he was making spectacular plays. And when he was bad, he was costing his teams games, like against LSU and Georgia. Could he take a step forward this year, just in general, not necessarily because of Mullen or Napier or anything else, just being another year older, having a little bit more maturity? I think so. I think he's going to do a better job protecting his body, not getting injured, not doing dumb stuff in the hotel to end up missing games and everything else. So I think that he is going to take a step forward, but I think you're right. Like, there's no way. I mean, Napier does seem to be more organized. He seems to be a better recruiter. He's from the Saban tree. I get all those things, but he's not a better QB guy than Mullen was, right? Like, Mullen is a great QB. Like, that's you can't, the fans want to discount everything Mullen did. Well, you can't, preach and beat a drum for 4 years that Mullen, really like 8 years that he was, right? Like, if you go back to his time the first time, he developed Tebow and he developed Dak, and he developed this guy and that guy, and look at what we've done with him, and look at Trask and this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, like, Napier's just gonna develop quarterbacks better than Mullen did. So I think you're right on that. Do I think Richardson's better overall this year than he was last year? Yes. Do I think he's going to win the Heisman? Maybe pump the brakes a bit.
Utah returns 82% of their production from last year.
Yeah.
And that was a really good team. And where do you want to play a team like Florida that's going through coaching changes? Week 1, when they haven't figured their shit out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see it. I don't think that game's really particularly close. Utah's going to not only dump truck them, they're going to make a statement like, this is who we are, But then I wanted to touch on Duquesne. You were mentioning, do you think Florida State's going to show anything? Not only is Florida State not going to show anything that LSU's going to be able to use, I would use that opportunity to completely fuck with them and the rest of the schedule by, once you get up big, you can run out some, let's run some wing T, like 1 or 2 plays there, just so they got to practice that this week.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad strategy, right? Like, just to have it. Now, I think that those, I think that the biggest thing is that, like, Brian Kelly's going to know Norvell's tendencies just from playing him last year and, having been around. And there's a bunch of film on Norvell. So I don't think we're like pulling out anything like crazy this year that's like going to just shock anybody. But yeah, like using different scenarios and different things like that. Like, I'm all about that. Florida State's not, it is, the people that like try and spin it the other way, it is an absolute advantage for Florida State to have that Duquesne game, a complete warm-up game before they play LSU, and to just get the confidence of having a freaking win to start a year for the first time in God knows how long. I think that's a much, much bigger advantage for Florida State than the people that come out and try and say, LSU will have film on FSU from that week 0 game. I mean, come on. That's like saying, never mind. I'm not going to make a film joke. But yeah, I think that you're completely spot on there. I've refrained on like 8 jokes for you guys today, and I don't remember what half of them were, but it's probably good for me to not get canceled. So
I 100% agree on that. So I think that's a great game for us. Work out some kinks. I mean, like you saw it last year, right? We thought Amari Gaynor was going to be able to play linebacker, and Notre Dame comes out and they're just like, he couldn't get there. He wasn't able to do it. But that's not something that we could see in practice, right? So now you get this game where it's like, okay, maybe we can take advantage of this and realize who's good and who's not a little bit at least, and be prepared for that LSU game.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with it. I do want to go back to that Florida-Utah game just a little bit. I do see that as a coin flip. Like, the one thing I hope you're right, that it's just an absolute curb stomping. I love we've all done it. We've done it twice in the last 4 years. But I love the confidence with a new coach and what that brings. And we all thought we were going to curb stomp Virginia Tech when they were coming in, right? Like, I get it. We swag surfed and we did all that stuff. I get that. I think that the big difference in the game is just that it's in the swamp. I think the temperature, I think that is a great place to play. Like, that is an absolutely fantastic atmosphere. It is top 10 in college football. I have no problem saying that. I've been to plenty of games in the swamp that we were in and weren't in and could just kind of like sit back and enjoy that game. That place is going to be loud. That place is going to be rocking, and it'll be a ton of fun. I think that, and I kind of wish it was a different week, just so that I think that'd be a fun one to go to, just being an hour and a half from Gainesville. But I also think that if Anthony Richardson plays really, really well and takes a step forward, that will, in fact, be a close game. Now, I don't know. I'm not confident in saying that Florida wins that game or Utah wins that game. Like I said, I think I'd be a Florida lean like right now until I kind of see it happen. We've seen teams do really, really well and then just kind of like lose a key piece or two. I know they return a lot of what they have. And so I know they're not losing a ton, and they just come out different and flat and weird the next year. As long as there's no like hangover for Utah, I think they'll be fine. And I will not be shocked at all if Florida loses that game. I think right now Florida's like a 2-point favorite in that game. So essentially, Vegas is telling you that if that was on a neutral site, that Utah would be a 1-point favorite. You usually get 3 points for home and away. So that game could absolutely go either way. I'd lean Florida. I would love to absolutely be wrong there and for you to be right and then just beat the absolute hell out of them. So that I do think that's going to be a fun game, though. I think we're going to learn a lot. There is so much when we talk about new coaches and coaching changes and the excitement that brings, and it happens in recruiting. It happens in the fan base. It happens with booster donations and signups. There's just a new energy. There's an excitement. I mean, you guys all remember Willie's first game. People say, oh, nobody ever gave Willie a chance. Willie had more people at his first spring game than Jimbo ever had, right? And so I think that the excitement that comes with a new coach is unmatched. And I think that you see that on social media. You see that when people come in with their confidence and with their excitement. There is nothing I would love more for that to all that wind be sucked out of their sails, like it was for us against Virginia Tech, and them lose that game by like 3 touchdowns. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think it'll be closer than that. It could go either way. But, man, talk about mirror images of starts to coaching changes. Remember that offseason. A lot of excitement when Willie was hired. There was a ton of recruiting momentum in July, just like Napier and the boys had in Gainesville this month. And then you get to week 1, you're playing a nationally televised game at 8 p.m., and you just get your brains beaten in. Not saying that happens to Florida, but I certainly would like to see it because it's a mirror image of exactly what happened with Taggart. And I think Napier will be better than Taggart. That's not my prediction that they're going to be the same. They're going to have the same end or anything like that. I do think Napier will be a good coach. I don't know if he's the guy that can win national titles there or not, but I do think he'll be a good coach. So that's not me to saying that, he's gone in whatever it was, 19 games, 21 games, whatever it was, but I'd love it. So I like your call, man.
Yeah, we will absolutely see, but I am very high on the Utes this year. So
let's get it. I like it. All right, my man. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to get Pat on here. Before we get Pat and we'll get out of here, I want to tell you guys about garnetgold.com. It's Spaces 15 when you go check out there. A lot of new Nike stuff. They've got the new Vault Nike Polo. Y'all better go get that. I know it's going down quick. Gramco is thegramco.com. TJ25 saves you 25%. Had a ton of orders coming through. If you haven't given them a try, go get a sample pack. It's like $2 or something. $2 for a sample of hard candy. Maybe $3 or $4 for a sample of gummies. Go show some love to the people that make these spaces possible. Gramco, Garnet and Gold. And then the last one, DSP Insurance. If you have a business, if you're in HR, if you are looking for benefits for your employees, give me a DM, shoot me a message. I'll hook you up with my guy, Tony Perez at DSP Insurance, so he can get your employees taken care of. Pat, what's going on, nerds?
What's up, brother? Hey, man, I just want to reiterate some of the stuff you've been saying about, like, with Anthony Richardson, like, how big of a step forward is he going to take without Dan Mullen? Of course. I mean, I agree on that big time. And then, I DM'd you. I got Utah, Georgia, A&M, and Tennessee as for sure losses for Florida. And absolutely at least one of the 3 between us, Kentucky, and South Carolina, if not both us and Kentucky. But back to like the Utah game, the guys before me said 82% of the production. Yeah, they got like 1,500 yards of rushing production coming back. They had a bunch of freshmen playing on defense. I mean, they beat Oregon twice last year, right? That's a damn good team. I definitely think they smacked Florida. And the only negative about being in New Orleans that weekend is I'm not going to get to watch that game with all my Gator fan friends. So where are we watching the game together?
Bro, I think we might be going to Kraken's Bar to watch that game, by the way, for y'all New Orleans folks. If you guys, let me say this for the folks that are still in here. I know that we're kind of tailing off talking about the rivals a little bit, but we'll kind of talk where the conversation leads. If you guys are going to the Duquesne game or the LSU game, hit my DMs. I'll hook you up with info about both tailgates. The tailgate info for Duquesne should be coming out today. I'm waiting on one more thing for that to be confirmed. And then the LSU one, we've got a tailgate with double fries on salt and the Roll Up Network. Pat's been to some. My man Charlie's coming by. A bunch of you guys are coming to hang out that day, so should be a ton of fun. But yeah, hit us up.
And the tailgate you had at the Notre Dame game, I met a couple people from Barstool. That was cool. That was a good time.
Yeah, no, it's always a good time. We like to keep it pretty fun, but we're gonna have a good time out in New Orleans. But yeah, we're going to Kraken's Bar to watch Florida and Utah, so that'll be fun.
Kraken's Bar.
Oh, like Kraken Calamar, like Kraken on here has he manages a bar. So yeah, don't look up Kraken's Bar, but I'll put out like tweets and stuff when we're ready.
All right, but yeah, I'll definitely, because that'll be Saturday. You know, that's the day before our games. That won't even be at the tailgate. That'll just be a separate thing.
Yeah. We'll all bar hop and crawl and everything else. So should be good. Pat, I can't wait to hang out. You going to Duquesne or no?
No, I just hung 2 TVs on my pool deck, and that is my inaugural college football Saturday, like having some people over, beers, cornhole, all that. So I will be big hanging out at home for the Duquesne game.
I feel you on that. I was excited to do that, and then I was like, I'm gonna take my daughter, so should be fun. That one will be more chill, but her first time going to a game in Doak should be cool. So, Pat, I appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, brother. Later.
See you, bud. Yeah, hit us up if you're going to the LSU or the Duquesne game. Happy to try and get you some information so that we can hang out there. That's it. I don't have any more questions. I don't have anything else. I don't think in the DMs, on YouTube, wherever. If you watch this on YouTube, thank you guys for hanging out. Again, spaces15 at garnetandgold.com. You can go to thegramco.com. Use TJ25. And again, for company-wide insurance, hit my man up, Tony Perez at DSP Insurance, DSPINS.com. I think that's it for today. We'll be back at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I've got a guest. I think you guys are going to like him. If not, I don't know what to say. But I think you guys are going to like the guest. If you don't, whatever, it's Friday. You can't complain to me on a Friday. Grab a drink and suck it up. Last thing I did throw up in the top of the space, I threw up a link to our YouTube. I continue to push that thing. The growth has been really good over the last month or so. If you wouldn't mind, go hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. We have a panel coming on Sunday night with a bunch of members of the media. It's my favorite thing to do every year with the podcast, where we get a bunch of different people on and provide a bunch of different perspectives. So Brendan Sonota of Noles 247, Ingram Smith of the Nolecast, Carter Carrolls from the Tallahassee Democrat, David Hale of ESPN, and who am I leaving out? Kurt Weiler of the new Osseo Rivals site. He was formerly of the Democrat, along with Richie and myself. I love doing the panel because I love getting all the different outlets together and chatting about what they're seeing out of practice, what they're expecting. It's always a good time to bring everybody together and talk FSU. It'll be Sunday night at 7 p.m. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube so you don't miss that. We'll also post all the clips and content that we have regularly coming out there. So click that button up in the top of the space. We would appreciate it. Thank you guys for hanging out today. We had a good time. Almost did 2 hours, but stopping a little bit short. Story of my life. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Go Noles.